All right, welcome folks to another episode, I guess, of the Revenue Cloud Roundtable, where we discuss Salesforce Revenue Cloud and related products and processes and share our thoughts around the state of the state, recent releases. And in this episode, we're going to talk about hot takes, things that we have opinions about when it comes to Revenue Cloud and what we think should be done about them, what we would like to see done about them, feedback, since feedback is a gift after all. According to Uncle Mark over at Salesforce, we will have perhaps a little bit of feedback on the call as to this product and what we like about it, what we would like to see more of in the future. My name is John Garvins. I'm the owner and principal architect at Garvins Consulting. I'm also the only architect at Garvins Consulting because it's just me. And I keep it small on purpose so I can say and do whatever the hell I want, and like having a hot takes Revenue Cloud roundtable discussion. I've been in the ecosystem for a while, got my start on the CPQ side, and now I'm starting to venture down the Revenue Cloud cave. And these are some of my friends from the Salesforce Friends Slack workspace that we have together. And we'll get started here with Alexandra. If you want to give a quick intro and share your background and how you got onto this crazy call.
So thanks. I got into this crazy call because we were former colleagues from a past partner and been working on Revenue Cloud for a couple of years here at my current company. And, we've been sharing in the joy of the new Revenue Cloud. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Want to hear what everybody else has to say?
CC.
Yeah, thanks, John. Well, I'm here because we are Salesforce friends. So, yeah, and working with Revenue Cloud, well, not for long because it's kind of new. So we are kind of on the same boat on that. But coming more from other tools, quote to cash, and building them for more than what I should say. So yeah, getting definitely into Revenue Cloud and what that means, mainly for our customers that are on the CPQ, the managed package, and they are reaching out to see what do they do about that and how do they tackle that. So thank you for having
Fantastic.
me.
And Travis.
Yep. So I'm Travis Lee, head of go-to-market systems for Atlin. I have, I think, about 8 years of experience worth of yeah, just in the CPQ arena. Not so much in the billing area, but our company is actually starting to evaluate CPQ, which is very interesting. And this is, an opportunity for me to explore a little bit more about what's out there. I've only done a little bit of work in Revenue Cloud and really only in a demo environment up to this point, trying to take what I know in CPQ and translate it into what it is in Revenue Cloud today.
All right. In the spirit of hot takes, we will start the conversation with a spicy topic, which is what are you finding the most challenging about Revenue Cloud today? Or what are some of the biggest challenges or frustrations that you have with the product if we were to share some of that with the powers that be?
Right. I can go first. I think one of the biggest challenges for us as consultants is the training, like the availability of good documentation, where we can go and try to figure out why things don't work. The help is great, but it's not training. So the lack of, since again, I mean, it's fairly new. We are all kind of like trying to see how these things work. And when you think you got it, there is a new release that shakes up things, and you kind of like need to start over, I think, with those things. So the training, I think that it's something that is being revised, it's being optimized, but there is still a lot to do there.
Yeah, and there is some training for those who are interested in learning about Revenue Cloud. There is some training available on Trailhead. It is high level and it's introductory because training takes a ton of time, especially training where you're going to check answers of what you built in your environment. That's a very big, complicated process on the back end. So be compassionate and patient with Trailhead as they work feverishly to develop this training. But there is some available. There is no substitute to actual experience in the field, of course, which all of us would agree to, I'm sure. But there is some training available, and you could check that out on Trailhead. Travis, what about yourself? Having the customer perspective now, but with the background of consulting and working with this, and now you're going to look to maybe purchase and implement Revenue Cloud, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing from the customer side?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with CC on that point. One of the first struggles I had when reaching out to, my Salesforce AE was, hey, how do I get an environment so I can get hands-on with this thing? I went to Trailhead, read through the documentation, everything, but as you said, like there's no substitute for getting hands-on and actually exploring what the tool could do. I was disappointed to find out that, the only thing I'd have available to would be a temporary org, 15 to 30 days until I checked out the Garvin's consulting video on how to set up a partner development environment and actually use a template to do that, which I had never done before. To me, that felt like a lot of hoops to jump through in order to get into this walled garden that is Revenue Cloud and truly experience it firsthand.
Yeah, and that video, by the way, I think is my most popular video. There are a lot of people that want to know how to spin up environments. I scratched my own itch with that video because I didn't know how to do it myself. So I dug around and then I recorded the results. And there we go. You're welcome, everybody. So you can find that by searching, Garvin's Consulting Environment Hub. It'll pop right up. So if you're a partner or somebody who's got access to Environment Hub and you want to spin that up, go ahead and look for that. And then if you're looking for the latest and greatest trial force ID to use for that process, you're going to want to find the Pocket Guide, the Revenue Cloud Pocket Guide, which is a QUIP document. Feel free to reach out if you want to get your hands on that. I'd have to dig around to find it myself, but it's out there somewhere. Maybe I'll link it in the show notes. Alex.
Well, I've been working with this thing since last summer, and definitely it is evolving and changing very rapidly, faster
Yeah.
than the coronavirus. So it's very difficult to produce training at the rate that it is
Yes.
changing. So it's going to be difficult to find training online. There are courses being held. So if you are working with a partner, you should be able to get some training that sessions are being held. I think the next one is coming up in Chicago.
Yeah, that
So,
sounds right. Yeah,
um,
and trying to build training for something evolving this quickly, as Alex said, is like trying to build a house in a mudslide. I mean, if the product is evolving this fast and the screens are changing and there's new fields and there's all this other stuff and new functions, trying to build training is extraordinarily difficult. So please be patient with the Trailhead team as they try to do this, and with the product management team as they're rolling out more and more functionality. So some things that I found challenging. I'll pivot a little bit away from training, but there is some learning involved. One of my biggest issues right now is the gap between what is marketed and sold and what is actually available in the real world. Theory and reality are currently, in my opinion, quite far apart, unless you got a lot of horsepower to bridge the gap between the two. So I think as a customer, Travis, looking to potentially purchase Revenue Cloud, it's not like there's no easy button. I'm sure you're surprised by that. There's no easy button. There's no fast implementation. There's no quick start. The
Hmm.
reason this product exists is because these business processes are extraordinarily difficult and complex to implement. And remember that your account executives, I love you, account executives, I really do, but your job is to sell software. So
Hmm.
understand that their job is to sell software. Our job is to architect implementations. And there's a big difference between those skill sets. Both are highly valuable. None of us would have jobs if no software got sold. So it's an important piece of the puzzle. However, when you're trying to figure out what you should do, whether or not you should purchase, talking to the people who are out there implementing these things in the real world, you're going to get a lot better insights. And the recommendation may very well still be you should buy this product.
Yeah.
But you want to buy it with open eyes with the reality of what's there, beautiful or not.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Go
And
ahead.
to that point, I think one of the things that we always try to do with the customers is like the classic POC, right? Do a proof of concept. You don't know if the product is going to meet your needs or not. Just start slow. You don't need to go all in. Let's look, which is what we are doing now. It's like, let's look at your use cases and see if this tool is for you. And then
Mhm.
decide together if it is or not. I mean, I think you and I talked about it. It's an insurance policy.
Yes.
It's exactly like this ability to say, let me check it out, get my feet wet, and then decide.
Yeah.
So as much as possible, we try to push customers in that direction.
Before you
and
buy
to
a
that,
Tesla, go rent one for a weekend.
and to your point, do your most complex use case.
Yes.
on that proof of concept.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't
Things
take the simple one.
yeah, things look great in demos, and they look great, like, when you're taking like the classic, I'm selling these units and for this amount. But
Yeah.
when you start digging into the weeds is when it gets interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance to these processes, and it's usually one of the problems that we face on, it's probably the most common problem we face on projects is the degree to which the client thinks they're prepared for this project and the degree to which the client is actually prepared for this project. And that's no disrespect to the client, especially if they've never implemented CPQ or quote to cash solutions before. There's a lot here. There are a lot of questions that we have, almost endless questions from the consultants on how to configure these things. But then over time, you realize, wow, there are a lot of yeah, but not whens that need to be implemented as well. Um, and what else? Anybody else have major challenges? Yes.
So one of the interesting things that you bring up is when we're coming into these, a lot of times we're coming in to do a conversion, right, from a legacy CPQ.
Yes.
And we know that when we've built these or come into something that somebody else built a long time ago, that we've always followed best practice when we built CPQ systems in the past, right?
Of
Yep.
course, we've never done anything against best practice. We're
So,
consultants.
so what I've seen on my last project was something that was very popular to do or necessary to do, which was attributes as products, because
Yes,
they had attributes that needed volume pricing or a tiered pricing
sure.
because those attributes were actually numeric. There was
Hmm.
a range from 0.03 to 20 or 30.0. That is a lot of numbers in between there.
Yes.
And each of those, the sub ranges within there had their own pricing structure.
Hmm.
So when you try to convert that into an actual attribute, that was something that was not achievable
Mm,
on the platform.
Hmm.
And furthermore, at the time, we were not able to implement that because attributes were text values only. And as far
right.
as I'm aware, even today, they are text only values. So the only
Mm,
thing we could do was have them as actual, every single individual number value from
Hmm.
0.30 to 30.0 and each individual price point for each individual numerical value combined with all of the other attributes and their price points. In sum, we had about over 4 million price point combinations, and the maximum is, I think, at the time was 2.5 million for a table, and nobody wants to manage that.
Mm-mm.
So I'm hoping that with the new configurator that has been released, that we don't have those issues, right? But
yeah.
for us, our customer was really adamant about going live 2 weeks before the new configurator was being released.
Right.
And there is no conversion path from the configurator from 2024 and the configurator released in 2025.
Right.
It's a brand new
It's
implementation.
do it again.
Alex,
Yeah.
Alex, I'm curious, like during this project, which sounds like it was going for a while, like how many times would you say that, the project had to, pull a hard left turn because of, changes or updates, to Revenue Cloud overall, just because it was evolving, as the plane was flying?
So that's a hard one to answer. It was more so not so much that it took a hard left because it was evolving, more so going back to the original documentation
Okay,
statement that we had zero training and
got
there
it.
was
Mm,
no documentation that I got as much as I could from Kevin Papp, the former partner manager, and he did his very
Kevin's great.
best to get us as much as he could. And he was phenomenal in delivering us everything that he could get his hands on. So that was the best that we could work with. And other than that, it was trial and error. And thank goodness for Jam Tremblay, as you all know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
he filled in the
Yeah.
gaps for a lot of us, and Wayne Salazar, who is now
Yes.
retired.
Yes.
So between all of those folks, that is pretty much how we got by. and working closely with the product team in our weekly, I'm a member of the, partner advisory board for Revenue Cloud for our company. So working with them to try to figure out what was possible or what was not possible and still working with them. So today we have Apex hooks, which if you're not aware of the Apex hooks, hooray. It was a great celebration. We got the news that you will have pre and post Apex hooks on the pricing procedures, which if you find a limitation in the pricing procedure that you can't do one thing or another within the pricing procedure, that you need more functionality, you can do it in Apex. So that is probably my biggest hot take for this particular group is fear not, if you find a limitation, if you've got Apex developers handy, they're going to be able to knock it out for you.
So that brings me to one of my hot takes, which is we keep hearing about how the new one, as I call it, is certainly more powerful, more flexible, more API friendly. Awesome. Great. Love it. Snaps for that. However, it seems, I might be wrong, it seems like I am almost assured that I need a developer in order to implement this product. And if that's the case, are claims that, hey, product managers, you'll be able to set up your own products in this tool. I personally think that that's laughable. No offense to the product managers out there, but your job should be managing your product. Your job should not be learning how to configure Revenue Cloud. And if you have to also learn how to write Apex, well, that's not going to be happening. We all know that. Let's be honest with ourselves here. So how accurate or not is my perception? Am I just totally wrong? Do I not understand right? Or am I on the right track here? What do you think?
I think you are correct for the current time. We are
Okay.
in a state of transition where the product is on a trajectory to a point where you won't need developers. But at the point where it is right now,
Yeah.
even if you look at CML, right? I've been working with markup languages since I was in high school, which was in 1992. So there are things going on that are staging us for a point in the near future where you aren't going to need somebody with that developer knowledge. But
Okay.
for right now, if you look at how you will need to just define your products, you're going to need to understand how to create a markup language. That's CML. So to folks like me who kind of grew up with markup languages, it's second nature. Somebody who is coming in from the CPQ world is going to look at this stuff. It's not really that intuitive, right? Because now you have to actually define your products. Somebody explained it to me. It was like Oracle, whatever Oracle's product was. I've never worked with it, but now you've got to define your
Big
pen.
machines.
Big machines, thank you.
Yeah.
So you have to define your pen and the pen color and the pen ink type and rollerball type, and things like that in a text file. The next stage of that will be more of a point and click. I haven't gotten to work with it personally because now I've kind of jumped more to AI things.
Yeah.
But I've been keeping, tabs on it. Everything right now is text-based.
Well, it kind of reminds me of Flow's been around for a very long time. And it kind of reminds me of how early on Flow, people complain about Flow, admins like myself struggled with Flow because well, this is just a little too weird. I don't know how to do this. What's this mean? And what's that mean? What's a variable? All that kind of stuff. But now it is much more intuitive and clickable. And it sounds like, based on what you're describing, that's where we're going. We're not there yet, but the goal is to make it admin friendly, where say 60 to 80% of an implementation can be done through clicks, but there still seems to be an almost ever-present need for some code somewhere, especially when you factor in every client is special and has its own unique business process and special pricing structure that is super innovative and probably unnecessary.
Well, and
Yep,
you also
you're
have to.
never gonna get.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I have to drop. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you're never gonna get rid of developers 100%, probably, but they will probably be using AI. But
Sure.
thanks,
All right. We'll
and
see you.
this is
Thanks,
fun.
Alex.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm from what I understand, the need for developers, the need for the Apex pre and post hooks, the need for CML those are the aspects of Revenue Cloud that you're going to have to leverage in order to get the same functionality that you could with the declarative price and product rules as as it stands today. So for
Right.
those looking to make that switch from Salesforce CPQ to Revenue Cloud, you almost have to do that if you want to do a near-term migration. To me, that's one of the frustrating points because I think everybody in this room would, might agree, I hope, that CPQ by itself, really requires a dedicated resource, whether that's,
Yeah.
outsourced or internal. But now you definitely need somebody for Revenue Cloud.
Yeah, at least one person.
Yeah.
I have a client that currently hired a Revenue Cloud dedicated person, but this is going to be one of the challenges we face as well is just the talent shortage that's already present in quote to cash, and it's going to be exacerbated as more and more customers purchase this, which is a whole separate question that we could talk about. I wouldn't even call it a hot take. That's just more of a deep concern that I have for the future of
Yeah.
these projects and the future of the product. Um, but yeah, I find that the the dependency on we're gonna have to customize something. It's almost like we've come full circle. The with CPQ, yes, it was technically declarative in that you're creating records for all of these different things, but in principle, it was still kind of like writing code because we're putting API field API names into pick lists because the code is compiling in memory on the client side in the browser and all this other stuff, and it's constructing those price rules and automations in real time and all of that stuff. So it is kind of code-ish. You have to build like an admin, but think like a developer with CPQ, but
Yeah.
also have a head for sales ops and rev ops and all these other things, which is what makes it so damn difficult. But now we're kind of going back to the very early days of, say, Steelbrick, where if you wanted to customize something, you wrote Apex for it.
Hmm.
So we've almost come full circle. The original Steelbrick had Apex when you needed to do something that you couldn't do with the tool. And then we switched to the advanced calculator. So all that custom Apex and workflow rules and process builder stuff that you built, all of that just broke because now we have this fancy JavaScript based thing
Hmm.
where we could have our quote calculator plug in and run our price rules and do all this other stuff. And now we're on this new product, which is using a combination of some principles from the industry's velocity acquisition, some principles from the CPQ steel brick acquisition, and kind of smushing it all together to try to make the best of both worlds. And all of that is great. But we've now gone all the way full circle back to the beginning, and I need somebody to write code.
That's
Yeah.
the, oh, sorry, go ahead, Cece.
Oh, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say that that's, I think, one of the most frustrating things, as a customer looking to potentially purchase. And this is my own opinion combined with, what I'm seeing from former employers and other colleagues in the ecosystem that are either considering Revenue Cloud or are already, in Revenue Cloud. There's this need for resources internal to that understand all the intricacies that you just mentioned, combined with AEs pushing Revenue Cloud and saying, "Oh, don't worry, we have a systems integrator to help you implement."
I can only
And
imagine what the spiff is right now, as an aside.
exactly, we have those, to get the hooks in, and then we're just going to have this big complex project, and good luck maintaining it for the future. And the number of folks that haven't thought through the long-term resourcing needs for this after those initial implementations, that's what concerns me the most. Great for folks in the room here that, can make money off those consulting projects, but worrisome for the broader ecosystem, I think.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is that as more companies get into the Revenue Cloud services, they will outsource it. Like they will go to companies. I mean, we have concierge services. They will go to companies like us. They will come and be like, "Hey, I have no people in-house. You guys need to help me." And then for a period of time until there are more resources out there and things can build up, they will rely on people like us, like partners and people in the ecosystem that know what to do. Now, to your point, I absolutely think for Revenue Cloud, you need a programmer. I don't think that there is any way around that. Even like there is a lot in Revenue Cloud that happens in flows. And people are like, oh, great, flow. I can have my admin do it. And
Yay.
Well, yeah, but those are Lightning Web components in Flow. Can your admins really work with those Lightning Web components? I mean, now we are starting to scale up on what a flow can do, and some of them are fairly complex flows. So it's not that with a basic flow knowledge, you can go out there and tweak it. You're talking about your entire renewal process now handling flows. So even to structure the flows in the right way, which is what we are seeing now in all these orgs that have flows everywhere, and but that's a different roundtable. But it's like people need to realize that you are pseudo coding and you need to do it right. It's not just like throw stuff out there.
Yeah,
How does
flow. Oh, go ahead.
I would just had a quick follow-up question. How is that impacting the approvals side? CC, you've posted a
Oh,
bunch
yes.
about
Give us the
approvals and
deets.
Oh yeah.
Should I go get a beer?
Yeah, do we want to pause and let's go get a drink? I need that to answer this one. No, so okay, let's put things where they belong. Like advanced approvals, managed package, that comes with CPQ. Like
Yes.
you had the chance to buy it, you could use it for whatever object you wanted if you had it, but you had to buy it with CPQ. Big question mark on what happens there. I don't know what happens with advanced approvals. Now, what we of course try to start doing is move everybody on the orchestration flow approvals. The reality is that the orchestration flows are amazing. I have like an entire set of posts on LinkedIn with links and guides and documents. It's great and super
Yes.
powerful when it works. So if it fits your use case, it's amazing. And what you can do, things that in the past we needed to do, either with advanced approvals or with entire custom approval solutions that we needed to put together to get parallel approval to work, or very complex logic that it was like, well, only this needs to happen for that to happen and things like that. All that you can do it now in the orchestration. When, in my opinion, breaks is when you have conditionals. You don't always want to do the same thing. You don't always want this
got it.
levels of
Yeah,
approval.
but not when.
So that's when you will see that, sure, you can do it, but can a normal human maintain this thing? I mean, like, what am I
Yeah.
building for my customer? Like, is this really scalable? And we are finding in a lot of cases that the answer is no. And we are trying to work around that. I mean, we are definitely talking to Salesforce, trying to better understand where this is going from a roadmap perspective. They know the limitations, and it's new. I mean, it's a product that was out there for a feature that was out there for a couple of releases by now. It's still evolving, and kind of like put some hope there that it will get better. Though hope is not a strategy there, but let's hope that it gets better. So. Long story short, if it fits your use case, go with the approval orchestration because it works wonderful. It works wonderful and it doesn't consume orchestration credits. There is like a lot of misinformation with that.
I
It's
was
not
just going to ask that. So at the beginning, when the new advanced approvals, the new one for advanced approvals came out, my understanding was that it was specific to Revenue Cloud, although it seems that's not currently the case. You could use this wherever. These approval orchestrations are available for whatever object you want in Salesforce, which is awesome. Because one of the things I remember about the old product, advanced approvals with the CPQ package, is like, damn, can I do this in other parts of the system? Wouldn't it be so great if this was just part of the core approval process function that's just native in Salesforce? But alas,
God forbid, God forbid the core platform gets some attention.
Yeah, wouldn't that
now
be nice?
they are going in that direction, and as I said, I mean it works really good if it fits your use case. And I think that we need to get our hands on that because if you go to try to create an approval process today, you get a beautiful message that says, "Hey, try the new approval orchestration
Oh,
flow."
yes.
We know what that means.
Yes. So, okay, let's drill into that just a little bit more. I'm not going to use the phrase double click, which seems to be all the rage these days. What are your three favorite and three least favorite approval orchestration use cases then? So if it fits your use case, it works great. What will it fit? What are the best, your favorites?
My favorites, I will say, the typical quote approval that goes by margin, discount, and then you want finance. Oh, you modify the legal terms. Now you want legal, like the very basic, very typical approval.
Okay.
Not when you start having mixes of, well, but it depends. Like when you have it depends, ugh, like I don't know. But
Yeah.
if it fits the case, absolutely. Like standard quote approval, wonderful use case.
I would say then that it's probably, especially for those anybody who's watching who's a consultant, this is a really good opportunity to ask your client the hard question of, are you sure you still need to do it this way? How about we crawl,
Yep.
walk, run our way into this? Let's
Mhm.
Mhm.
find our 80-20 solution where, all right, this will meet the use case 80% of the time. If it falls into that 20%, let's look at that manually. Oh, manual. Manual's not necessarily bad. Sometimes manual is good. Like you
Yeah.
take a race car driver who really knows how to use a manual transmission, it's amazing. They're so good at it. But if I was trying to do the same thing, you wouldn't want to be in that vehicle. We'd be in the wall. It would be a bad situation. So, like, uh, simplifying the business processes, I think, for approvals, for implementing Revenue Cloud, for migrating from an old CPQ tool or a spreadsheet to Revenue Cloud. We always talk about this stuff, but it's so rare that it actually happens and we simplify.
Mm.
Yeah, we push back a lot though. Like, I mean, I love during design when we are like, wait a second, why are you doing that? And if you hear like 5 seconds of silence, it's like, okay, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
if you cannot articulate why, then no. I mean, like in a call the other day, I heard 5 times, well, it's required. It's required by whom?
I
Like,
hope
do we still
Mhm.
have it around? Like, do we still care about this? And it's
a
maybe
VP that left 3 years ago
right,
required it.
exactly. So I think that we definitely need to have the consultant hat on and push back and question because a lot of the complexities that these companies put out there, there are some just
Or pro tip, if you're a newer consultant, here's a little trick I like, which is when you get that requirement where you think, hey, we probably shouldn't do this at all. I'll tell the client, how about this? Let's put it in the next phase. And we'll prioritize it. We'll put it in the grooming session, the backlog, and we'll look at it in the next release. And they go, oh, okay, cool. I know that that's not going to happen. Everybody knows that's not going to happen. We're going to have too much spillover from the current phase that's going to go into the next one, and there's going to be more impressing, more important things to worry about. That this little thing that they think they so desperately need, that's just going to get overlooked, and we're going to forget about that.
It's like a new version of time heals all wounds, but time destroys all requirements.
That'd be a good t-shirt. Time destroys all requirements.
I mean, John, I have already in multiple situations used your analogy from one of our previous calls of
Uh-oh.
CPQ versus RCA in terms of buying the prefab house at Home Depot versus buying the Home Depot, and that has really landed with some folks that are
Yeah,
not CPQ experts and are trying to conceptualize what the actual difference is between the two
which brings
platforms.
me to my next hot take. Can we get, I know we have some, and thank you to the teams that are building these things for some, like, but we talk about parity, Revenue Cloud being at parity, the new one being at parity with the old one. The definition of parity means like the same or better.
Hmm.
So I want out of the box renewals and amendments. We have some flows for that now. Thank you very much. But order splits. How about something that mirrors exactly what CPQ did? You got access to the code. Can you
Hmm.
just, some of my customers, especially those that are currently on CPQ and are thinking about migrating to Revenue Cloud, the CPQ renewal and amendment processes might work just fine for them.
Hmm.
Can we just get those out of the box with a flow that I could just turn on? Or
Yeah.
maybe a custom metadata switch thing in the background where it says, hey, use like out of the box renewals, order management, blah, blah, blah,
I
blah,
know a guided setup page that has Astro actually walking you through that you can
blah.
click and say, do you want to use the standard
We'll use all the
framework
cartoon
template
characters.
or
It'll
build
be
it
great.
yourself?
Let's make ourselves a new little wizard, like an actual
Exactly.
wizard character that'll walk us through the Trailhead Forest with holding hands with Astro. It'll be great. It'll be like we're in third grade again. Um,
but you bring
Cartoon
up a good
characters is a
point.
different hot take, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
Now, John, you bring up a good point. I mean, you have the process working in CPQ. It's like,
Yeah.
why are you gonna make me do this again now in RCA?
Or how about this common one? There's no primary checkbox in Revenue Cloud. Why? Well, because some customers don't want a primary checkbox. They may have a different thing. Maybe they build multiple quotes. Maybe they use multiple quotes from different teams and they summarize it all up in one big document. Okay, fine. But 95+% of my clients that I've ever worked with want one and only one quote.
Yeah.
And from that quote, they're going to create their order and they're going to create their contract, and all of that flows through. So some customers need that rigidity. Like one of the things that's both great and terrible about the new product is its flexibility, is its scalability. If a
Hmm.
customer can build whatever the hell they want, they will build whatever the hell they want,
Hmm.
whether or not it makes sense, whether or not it's best practice, whether or not sometimes rules are good, sometimes structure and rigidity and not can't do that. It's not supported by the product. Sometimes that stuff is good as well.
Yeah.
Optional quote lines, optional quote line groups. Why do I have to make this and then come up with this convoluted pricing procedure to kind of exclude and this, that, and the other thing? I just want to check a primary checkbox, synchronize with my opportunity, and be able to exclude some of those products as I want. Like, why
You
can't I
can put a
just?
flow to that, so you're good.
Well, what about I think last I checked, and please either of you correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't have twin fields in
No,
Revenue Cloud.
It's a totally different
Why?
architecture. Because you cannot go to Revenue Cloud thinking like you think on CPQ. It's a
no,
totally different architecture,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a totally different mindset. Back to the yeah, you probably need a developer in house. Yeah, I mean you gotta start over. It's a very different product.
But this is
Yeah.
where the concept of hydration comes in, right? Like I could basically gather this data and have it hydrated in the context definition. I'm trying to remember all the right terms.
You got it.
Hydrated in the context definition of my data raptors
There you
are
go.
gonna remember all this stuff and move it around, which theoretically, like once you get this stuff working, man, that's pretty cool, actually, that you could essentially cache all of this stuff and then move it around. That's pretty cool. Yay, that's awesome. Way to go,
When
Salesforce.
it works, right?
But like some of us just want a simple twin field. I just want to take the color that's on this quote line and I want to push it to the order product and I want to push it to the asset and I want to, I just want it to move downstream. Why is it got to be so
Yeah.
damn complicated?
Yeah, and you gotta work with the context definition for that. But that brings us to probably I'm chiming kind of like ahead of in your list, but like is RCA your right tool?
Yeah.
If you are a simple organization trying to do the basic simple quote in the system,
Yeah.
should you look at RCA? I'm kind of
Let's use a quick example. So I've been an Evernote user for a long, long time. Evernote's a very simple product. You can buy it monthly, you can buy it annually, but it's a simple subscription product. There's really only a couple of levels of the product. So let's just say I'm a SMB startup SaaS company and I want to sell 5 products with maybe a couple of attributes. Do I need Revenue Cloud?
and I will say it depends.
Oh, you're such a consultant. That was
I
going to be my answer
I
too.
have to. It depends on the use case. What I mean by that is we gotta look at your business process. We gotta look at where you are right now. We gotta look at where your strategy is going. What is your go-to-market strategy? How are you evolving? And it's not one answer fits all. I mean, we get engaged in some with some customers or prospects just to help them decide because there are so many tools out there. Some of them they demo great, but when you take them down to real life, they don't really work as good. Particularly in the services the industry, which is where I have my core background. I mean, we have our quoting tool for services. I mean, we know, of course, our tool is great, but we also know like all the stuff that is out there that doesn't fit use cases. And it happens the same with RCA. I mean, I think that companies really need to pause and really evaluate if it's the right tool for them.
And
Yeah.
that's where the power of proofs of concept and phase zero advisory projects really come into play. And I mean, this is obviously a shameless pitch. I'm a consultant. I make my money from selling these kinds of ideas and offerings. Same with CC's company and before Travis with customer side, same thing there. But sometimes, especially if you've not gone down the quote to cash path before, it can be extraordinarily valuable to have somebody there who's done this 100 times before, who can say, I know you think you want to do it this way, but you might want to rethink these three things over here. Or here's a part of this project that you're not anticipating because you haven't done this before. We need to start prepping that now because if we don't, it's going to delay your go live by 3 months. That
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
stuff. Like, hey, there's Mike Tyson's around the corner and he's going to punch 4 feet off the ground. And if you're not below that, Mike Tyson's going to punch you in the face. That's what that advisory can help you do. And the proof of concept is like, do you even want to do a boxing class? So my jujitsu school, try a free week. You don't know if you're going to like it. It's a proof of concept. Doesn't
Mhm.
cost me a lot, doesn't
Mhm.
cost them a lot, just a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Proofs of concept and advisory can really make a big difference in saving money. Like,
It's an important like aspect, and it's also an opportunity for us as consultants to grow our own skill sets because whereas with CPQ, we could call out the most common issues and exactly where they live. Oh, hey, you got to think about, multidimensional quoting and if you do bundles because those two things are going to butt heads.
or order splits.
Exactly. But now we have to be even more specific and also vague at the same time in terms of saying, hey, we need to look out for these key areas and think tool agnostic about the CPQ
Yeah.
process
Well,
and
it's
the
going to be a
components of
problem
CPQ.
regardless of the tool.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. Well, and also, I mean, I think the advisory part that you mentioned, I love it because I think one of the things that also a lot of companies do is, well, let's look at how we quote. Like, let's quote. We need a quoting tool. It's like, well, we cannot talk quote without talking about your product catalog and how you
Mhm.
manage that. And we cannot talk about a quote if we don't talk about where does that go? What's your order look like? What's your fulfillment process? What's your billing process? What's your rev rec process? Like
Mhm.
we gotta really take it all the way from quote to cash. And in a lot of our customers, you have just people that look at the little piece that they care about. So involving with a consultant that saw this before helps you make sure that you are covering all your fronts.
Make sure that
Absolutely.
your whole implementation isn't driven by the sales team. That
Yes.
Yeah.
legal and compliance and finance and accounting and product management and the new pricing people team that you hired and RevOps, all of these people need to be involved. And it can start a lot of those uncomfortable conversations and critical and important decisions much earlier in the process. Because a lot of times what happens, if you've not done one of these projects before, I'm speaking to the choir here, but you get a couple months into the project and then there's a big decision that has to happen and then the whole thing just stalls for months
Mhm.
while you're trying to figure out an answer to this one question that we maybe could have handled for a much lower out-of-pocket expense had we just engaged with somebody who's done this before,
Mhm.
to decrease friction downstream and increase the velocity at which we can deliver this project.
You mentioned a key point that's worth repeating, which is getting the go-to-market team, the finance, and the product team all in a room to discuss and align on what you sell and how you sell it. Because
Yes.
like that is going to drive so many downstream things, no matter what tool you choose, that if you don't have a clean list and if sales is if sales' list of products doesn't match finances and doesn't match products, you're already in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
encountering that now. It's just I mean, it's a perennial issue. Uh, some some companies are wise enough to see that and to act on it before it becomes a problem. Just like something else I'm dealing with now, security and access of the different objects and fields involved in your quoting process. Figuring that out 6 months before your go live is a better idea than figuring that out 6 days before your go live. Ask me how I know. One of those causes a lot of stress.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Can see that. Yeah.
So, all right, we got a couple minutes left here. How would you, I'm going to rephrase the question that I had here. How would you think about, uh, Travis, you're actually a customer. So what are some of and CC, your opinion as a consultant, how would you think about the decision to purchase Revenue Cloud, both when I do and when I do not have a quoting RevOps solution in
Oh, I think I got the end of that.
there?
Yeah, you're back on. Um, as As a customer looking to bring in a CPQ tool, I am trying to take that tool agnostic view as much as possible and make sure that the foundation internally is laid down and that we do have a clear list of products and that we can map it to our NetSuite billing items and map it to the way in which the product works. Those are kind of the early questions that I can start now before I even start talking to vendors to say, hey, how do we want this to work? And I'm also trying to figure out, I guess put together my tiger team, for lack of a better term, of who do I need from legal to make sure that, that process is in line? Who do I need from finance on this front? Who do I need on the deal desk front to piece together that, that tiger team in order to say, all right, when the decision comes up, these are the people that need to be involved. And those are, I think, the very early stage actions that you can take because they're completely within your control, and you can say, hey, I don't need to worry about price and product rules and what object is going
No.
to be created at this point. I can just create a visual map of how I wish how I wish it worked and make sure that that is as nailed down as possible.
Yeah, and the product that you end up purchasing shouldn't matter at this point. If it's a true advisory project, you shouldn't be talking about products at all.
Yeah.
Except for your products that you sell to your customers. Those are the products you should be talking about. We're not doing vendor selection here. We're talking about what should the ideal process look like? How do we sell? What are some things that have been frustrating us for years that we would like to get rid of? If you
Mm.
find yourself talking about tooling during an advisory sort of a project, pump the brakes, back up. You're too close to the edge. We're going to go careening off and explode in a ball of flames. Maybe not that dramatic, but pump the brakes a little bit. Cece, what do you have to say?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say we see a lot of that with IT-driven projects when the project is
Hmm.
really like the one that says, "Hey, we need a new tool," and then we are in a room talking about tools. And I mean, I wish we have it, Travis, in every single company we go,
Wouldn't that
right?
be
Because
nice?
it will make our life
Who
easier.
doesn't want to work with this guy?
Right. I mean, like, put together your team, have the people that care about this. The mix of people need to be in the room so we can talk about the foundational things. Because you
Hmm.
know what? At the end of the day, the foundational things are right. The tool is going to be easier. Like, the tool is
Mm.
almost like a secondary decision, but you gotta have your house in order. And it cannot be IT driven.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really focusing on the specific and the most pressing, and run an analysis on how expensive the problems are too, because you're going to spend a lot of money implementing this stuff. I mean, the retail price of a license is $200, and then if you go over your usage allotment, there's more there. Talk to your account executive about pricing. That is not my responsibility. There's my disclaimer. But
Hashtag safe harbor.
yeah, safe harbor, and the projects are going to cost more than you think they're going to cost. Licenses are going to cost more than you think they're going to cost. So what are your most expensive problems and how can we eliminate them with some sort of a tool? Like and sometimes eliminate reducing costs is like, how about we just not do this thing anymore? This thing hasn't really benefited us for years. Let's just stop doing that. That could be a
Mhm.
very effective way to decrease costs and things. Also, it's just a side thing when it comes to these projects, make sure you have like some disagreeable people in the room. We want to complete this project as a team and we want to be successful and all this other stuff, but you got to have some folks in the room who are willing to call bullshit
Mhm.
and say, no, that's a terrible idea. Here's why. And they're not afraid to be unliked. Now, you also don't want to work with assholes. So balance that appropriately. But you want to have some people who are motivational and are go-getters and are excited. You want to have some people who are new to the organization, some people who are a decade plus into the organization. So you get that perspective, but you also get some freshness. You want people who are teammates, but you may not always agree. You're going to have, it's just like I don't know, like a wrestling team. Like you're all going to try to beat the hell out of each other every practice. But at the end of the day, you're a team and you're all
Mm.
trying to get better. That's the whole thing. Keep the focus on the problems. Oh, and on that note, thank you, watch. Um, it's 4 o'clock, which means I need to go teach some kids jujitsu. Uh, but yeah, have a mixture of people, not just from functions, but also personality types as well. People who care about these problems and really want to see them solved. Um, and and your project will go, uh, your project will be successful and whatnot. We could probably talk endlessly about various hot takes and stuff. Hopefully, for those watching, I hope you found this valuable. Feel free to contact me, garvinsconsulting.com. Feel free to fill out the form, ask more questions. If there's topics that people want to hear us discuss in these, go ahead and let me know. Other than that, we will see you soon. Thanks for joining, you guys. And Alex, thanks for joining. I know you had to drop for a client meeting, but clients come first and this is second. So there we go. All right. And on that note, we'll see you later.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.